The Unfiltered Business Podcast, a place where young professionals come together to grow, evolve, and change for the better. A place where success is accessible. Welcome to the show. Welcome back. Episode 6, the Unfiltered Business Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Thomas. And welcome back, guys. This week we have my mentor, actually, Rich Simpson from Redline Pavement Solutions. Actually he was my sales manager, and he was kind of responsible for training me up when I first started my sales career, close to 10 years ago. And we have a really fun and interesting relationship, goes back a long way. He's seen me from just being a dumbass kid, didn't know where I wanted to go, to me showing some promise, to me sort of taking that next step and taking accountability for my skill set, my job, what I was supposed to do. And I owe a lot to where I am today because of him. He spent a lot of time with me, time that he didn't have to, time that he may not have had, but he took me under his wing and he trained me a lot. And I owe a lot to him. And again, he's a really fun guy, and I hope you guys enjoy the show. There's a lot of little nuggets in there. So, on another note, it is Monday the 8th. You guys will be hearing this on Wednesday the 10th, but the Buccaneers have won the Super Bowl. Tom Brady has won his 7th championship. I've been getting so many mixed reviews on all this stuff. On one hand, I like Tom Brady. He's a Bay Area native. I played baseball against, we used to play in tournaments up at Sarah. So I'm very well aware of kind of where he went to school, his surroundings. I went to junior college in San Mateo. So again, I'm very well aware of kind of where he grew up, that sort of thing. And so I was rooting for the Bucks, only because of what the Chiefs did to the Niners last year. It just was another thing that sometimes you forget because of 2020 and the year it was, is that, the Niners lost the Super Bowl. So anyways, that's kind of off topic stuff here, but it's been a fun week. If you guys didn't listen into last week's episode with Justin Schaefer, out of the previous 5 episodes that we had sent out, I got the most feedback from that episode. A lot of people were thinking that, hey, this was great. I really appreciate what Chief had said and kind of his insights as to different mindsets and how he goes about just kind of his growth in his career. And I don't want to downplay any of the other episodes I've done. I think we did a bunch of great stuff with everyone I spoke to, with Mike, with Derek, with Marty, with Allison. A lot of great stuff, but there was something about last week's that kind of stuck out. And again, I had a lot of people reaching out saying, this was great, do more stuff like this. So I'm working on it. Again, like today, we're talking with Rich Simpson. We're going to be talking a lot about starting a business, maybe a little later than life. He's not your prototypical entrepreneur, starting a business right out of college and kind of running with it his whole career. He spent 15 years, growing his sales career and his client list at a previous employer. And then at one point he was like, I think I could do this better. I think there's something here that tells me that I can do this myself and I can make the rules. And I respect that about him. And the thing that you guys will learn more about as we go on through this episode is that he had a lot of the things that would hold most people back from starting this business. He had the kids already. He had a home. He had the mortgage. He had a wife that was working hard to kind of keep the family together at home. So he had to be the breadwinner. And I think in that situation, most people would have played it safe. They would have gone, this may not be the right time, or I may have missed my opportunity to live out this dream. And I have to kind of, go the safe route to ensure their safety. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I find his story very interesting just because he kind of took that leap and said, I'm going to bet on myself. I think I can do this. and he's 4 years in and he's killing it. So I will let him kind of speak for the rest of that. I think it's a great episode, and should be fun. Moving forward, I'm really excited. We have some more people coming up. We have some females that I'm super excited to talk to. We have some people of influence that will be coming. People who have big social media followings that I'm really interested in getting some insights into, especially the one that we'll be speaking to in the next few weeks. I think you guys will see it in probably 2 or 3 weeks. But we're going to be talking more about, she happens to be very into the small business world, and with 2020 and what happened last year, I'm interested to hear kind of her insights into how she could provide kind of that support system for a lot of these people. So we have her coming up. We also have another good friend of mine and my wife's, who worked at a big time agency in San Francisco. We talk about kind of her managing multi-million-dollar projects, working with creatives and executives, and sort of the line that can sometimes be washed away in those creative projects. So there's a lot of fun stuff coming up. I also am talking with a football coach, an artist, a lot of great stuff. I think you guys are going to be really pleased with what's coming up. Yeah, I'm rambling again, like always. So let's get started with the show. Real quick, if you guys have anything that you guys want me to cover, like I mentioned before, shoot me a DM. I'm always on LinkedIn, always on Instagram. Let me know. And if you guys want to be on the show, call me up. Let's talk. Always looking for interesting people to talk to. My network, I would say, is good. It's not great. I'm working on it. So I'm reaching out to more and more people here every day to be on the show. But I'm always looking for new people. So again, call me, text me, message me, DM me. We'll figure this thing out. So anyways, Rich Simpson, the president of Redline Payment Solutions. Enjoy. All right, now back on the Business Unfiltered podcast, we have an old friend, Rich Simpson of Redline Payment Solutions. Thanks for coming on the show, Rich.
Thanks for having me, Derek.
All right, I'm going to kiss your ass here a little bit because I think we have a special relationship.
Yeah.
So Rich, I've known Rich for probably upwards of like 10 years now. And when I met you, I was just a kid. I was 22, 23 years old.
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing, what I wanted to do. And I just started at a pavement maintenance company out in Hayward, California. And I mean, to be honest, I have no idea what my first impression was. But Rich, you were nice enough to kind of take me under your wing. And to be honest, I owe a lot of, where I am to you and a lot of the things that you taught me. And yeah, and I just wanted to thank you because I don't know if I'd be where I am without you. So thank you for everything that you did. And we'll get into that a little bit more, but really, truly thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
So just a little background on Rich. So Rich is, he's a business owner. He owns a pavement maintenance company. You're based out in the Pleasanton area, I guess it would be.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But before that, he was a sales rep at another company in Hayward. And he was kind of the sales manager. I mean, would you say that was your role back then?
Yeah, kind of a sales manager, lead estimator. I don't know. I was a little bit of a jack of all trades, I suppose.
Right. So, I mean, before that was kind of like your entry into the sales world, was it? Did you have anything going on before then?
Actually, I had a really interesting mentor early on in my career. I was in college majoring in economics. I knew I wanted to do something business related, but didn't really have any clarity over what that might be. And I was working, I went to Santa Clara University. I was working in the development office there. So doing alumni fundraising, which I guess is maybe the closest thing to sales that you can do at a college campus job.
Call and ask people for money.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And that was really great for me. And just, I don't know that I was shy, but I certainly was not someone who could easily engage with conversation with strangers on the phone over and over again. And so that really threw me into the deep end a little bit. But I was really successful there immediately and kind of rose up to be one of the team leads. And the woman who was running the program for the students when I was there had a friend from that she had known since high school. and he had just started a high tech company in LA. High tech was really big. It was kind of the .com era when I was finishing college. So she said, you got to meet this guy. You have so much in common. He's looking for somebody to do some recruiting and maybe move into a sales role at some point. So we met and hit it off, and I worked there for my kind of an intern between my junior and senior year of college, and had a job coming out of that after I graduated from school. And maybe we can talk about the mentorship thing a little bit.
No, totally. That's what I want to get into. Yeah.
You touched on that. And for me, I remember having this conversation with this woman I was working with that summer and just thinking, gosh, I'm going to be out of school here in a year, and I just have no clue what I'm going to do. And she said, oh, you'll find something, and you're a smart guy, and you're capable, and all these sorts of things. But ultimately, he took me under his wing, and he said, listen, you have to be in some kind of sales. You're really engaging with people. You're smart. You're a quick learner. You're a lot like me. This is what I built my career on. I can help you. This is what you need to do. Right. I sort of thought, okay, well, here's this really successful guy that I admire telling me to do this. Maybe I should take his advice. And so I worked there for a year, and then I lost my job just with the kind of downturn in the economy. I was very low on the totem pole at this company. But just coming out of that, I knew I want to do something sales related, some kind of professional business to business type sales. And I kind of like. Are you still in contact
with that guy at all?
No, not really. But but he's one of those people. The door is always open. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but I'm sure if I sent him an email, he'd get right back to me.
Right. Well, it's interesting, that whole relationship, right? Because I think you kind of said it. It was like, hey, I have this skill set. Even if you have the confidence or not, like, it's still so helpful to have someone to like believe in you as well, right? And be like, I see this in you. I see this. I know you can do you said it like, he's kind of like, you're like me. And it's like, okay, wow, I see myself. You're a successful guy. I can potentially be a part of this. You believe in me. Take me along with you. Because the thing that I think gets misunderstood about the mentor relationship, mentor-mentee, is that there's work on the mentor side too. It's not so much just like, hey, follow my lead. It's like, no, I need you to take some time and help me kind of move through this whole thing, because we're navigating this for the first time. So it's definitely a two-way street. And I think, to have the right mentor takes time for them. They're going to have to go over and beyond to make sure that their person that they're training up becomes who they want them to be.
Right.
Yeah. So I really appreciate all that we had together. I think we had a lot of fun over like the 7 or 8 years that we worked together. And there was something about you've always been a hard worker. I mean, this is almost to a fault. Like, I remember, because when I came from the retail world, you clock out, you're done, right? Like you're moving on, you're going home, you got no worries. You wake up the next day and the whole thing starts over. But when you're getting into the sales world, I mean, the clock really never stops. I mean, you can make it stop, but it really doesn't. And I always respected how often you were at the office late, you were there early, you were calling to check in. I mean, is that something that you learned from your previous relationships, or is that something you had inside of you? Where does that extra work ethic come from?
Honestly, I don't see myself as that hard a worker. I mean, working in construction, there's a lot of people that can put you to shame in the hard work department. Sure. For sure. I mean, there's so many guys that just work so many long hours, and it's grueling work. But I mean, I had jobs since when I was 13 years old or something. I was working for people, and I just always kind of had a little bit of a drive to make money and to do things that I like doing. And, I did a lot of really grueling stuff too. I went and worked on some farms over the summer where I was, carrying around big backpacks of fertilizer, spraying weeds and wheat fields in like Oregon not Oregon, but Washington and Idaho. I spent one summer digging a ditch behind a building out in Fontana, which is like desert Southern California. It's like 110 degrees outside. So I definitely had some of those. Yeah, I definitely had some of those experiences where, but there was always some little carrot dangling there in front of me that something I wanted to achieve, or something I wanted to buy with the money that I could earn.
Right.
yeah, I mean, I guess that kind of carried over. But again, being in an industry where there are a lot of hardworking people, I think that there's this element of just trying to keep up and not be the lazy one.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think having that kind of discipline to understand that, hey, I realize that there's a lot of grinders out there and people, and I can't sit on my, my heels and make sure that it all comes to me. I mean, that's part of just being a good salesperson, right? Is being able to self-motivate yourself, see kind of those next steps that you're talking about, whether that's, a money leap or the next role above it, or, whatever, becoming a business owner. There's always something out there. And the ones that really succeed are the ones that understand those and take the necessary steps to get there. So I wanted to fast forward just a little bit here,
Okay.
To Redline Pavement Solutions. So this is a business that you started 3-4 years ago, correct?
Yep. End of 2016. Yeah.
So the thing that I find interesting about it is that, we hear a lot about kind of the entrepreneurs out there that start young and, they're 18, or their lemonade stands when they're kids, they come up with something when they're out of high school, then they're running their own business, whatever it may be. You're kind of took a different track, and I'm interested in, because, you're doing very well with where you're at now. You're in the same industry, but what led you to that, starting your own thing?
Well, as you know, the company that we worked for together, mm-hmm. I was there for 15 years, and just the nature of that job, again, as you know, was that we were almost these little businesses within a business where we were just responsible for so much when it came to finding new customers, nurturing those customer relationships, being technically proficient, providing proposals, managing projects, mm-hmm. collecting money, having visibility into the company finances. So I have a business degree, so that's helpful, but we got a lot of exposure to kind of the nature of running a little business within a business. So there were some
I love that side of it, because I think you hit it on the head. Like, I wouldn't have been able to start what I'm doing here because all that knowledge was necessary to run those little businesses that we have. Yeah. And I don't want to say it was a sink or swim sort of position they put us in, but they're putting you in charge. There was no one reviewing our estimates. There was no one going like, we obviously had our teammates to kind of rely on, and we would show things to each other, but there was no one saying like, hey, that's right, or that's wrong, or that margin is too low, or it's too high. What are you thinking? Like, we had to learn what the competitive, margins were, and how to be in the right position, and how to position yourself with the board members, things like that. And I think some people may look down on the construction side of the world. Like, I have friends that I've been like, hey man, you got to go work at this company. There's a ton of upside. You get to run your own business basically. And they're like, construction, like, I want to work at a startup, or like, because we're here in Silicon Valley. But I think all the knowledge that we learned, like, I don't know what I could do without it. I don't know where I would be.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, exactly. So, so that really prepared me well for starting my own business, was that I essentially had, I'd almost done it a little bit within this other business.
Right.
And so, some things happened at that company, as you know. We don't need to get into the backstory, but sure. I had been thinking about starting my own company for a while. I had family members and friends say, Rich, when are you going to go start your own business? And customers had even said to me, what are you doing working for this other company? You should start your own company. And,
right.
Going back to your theme here about being a little bit further on in my career and then thinking about starting a business, it's really hard. And I think that anybody with a family or a mortgage or any kind of commitments can tell you that, I mean, it's hard starting a business anytime, because you're going to have to make some sacrifices. But when you get a little bit further along, particularly if you're the breadwinner of the family or something, it can be really challenging, because you sort of think, I'm not just sticking my neck out on the line. I have other people who rely on me here.
Right.
And I had certainly felt that, but I had my hand was forced a little bit. So I thought, okay, maybe now's the time to do it. And I remember there was all these sort of defining moments in the starting of the company, and then the first year that I can maybe share at some point as we talk here. But
Sure.
I remember a defining moment. I went and had breakfast with these two guys, customers of mine. One of them owns a company. One of the guys works for him, and they're friends of mine aside from being customers. And they said, let's go out to breakfast and we'll talk about what you're gonna do next here. And I remember one of them got a little napkin and said, okay, we're gonna write down what your options are. And we sort of made a little list of pros and cons of going to work for somebody else, going and starting my own business. And and they really were pretty direct with me. And they said, Rich, you can always go work for somebody else, but if you don't take this opportunity, this kind of watershed moment in your career to go and start your own business, you're always going to wonder,
right,
what would have happened? What would have happened if you did?
Right.
So you can go do this, and if it fails or you hate it, you can go work for somebody else. But if you go work for somebody else, you might not have another opportunity that you have right now. And that,
right.
And I knew when they said that they were right. And I was like, okay, I gotta do this.
I mean, I love that mindset too, is because I think there's always a million things that are going to hold us back, right? I mean, especially the position you were in, you have kids that rely on you, you have the mortgage, you have everything that you have every single asset that people would have that would say, do not do this, you need to play it safe. And I think when you did separate from that other company, like once we knew what you were after and what you were going to do, like there was no doubt in anybody's mind that you could do what you were doing. But the difference is having that trust in yourself and that self-belief. And that's what I think separates everyone. Cause like, yeah, you got a million people that have all the greatest skill sets in the world, but they don't believe it in themselves. Chances are you're not going to succeed. So it sounds like you kind of knew, and having all that industry experience, 15 plus years, clients that love you, that only want to work with you, you can almost just be like, hey, come over here. It's gonna be the same process, but with a new title, and we're gonna do everything the same. So I love that. That first year, I want to talk about that a little bit, because that's always the scariest part, right? I mean, you're unsure of yourself. There's cash flow stuff. I mean, construction, especially with pavement, like cash flow is key. I mean, were there moments when there was some scarcity coming to mind? Like, oh man, I'm looking at the bank account, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, what were the doubts that were going on in that first year?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that when I was thinking about things to make sure I touched on in our conversation here. And for the most part, I surprisingly was able to sort of hit the ground running. And, I know that that's not going to be the case for everybody. And I don't think that that's a prerequisite to starting your own business. But I was fortunate that I had enough people that, sorry, something fell down here. I had enough people who I talked with when I told them what I was going to do, who said, if you go do your own thing, we're going to support you. We've got your back. I reached out to a lot of people in the early days of parting ways with the other company, and they all said the same thing. And I thought, wow, okay. I mean, I was really touched by it, to be honest with you. That I think if you have a lot of people who go start their own business, right? You start a new restaurant, you maybe got some experience working as a general manager or a server or in a kitchen, or maybe a little bit of all of those things. Sure. And then you say, okay, it's time to start, or you're a chef or something. You say, okay, now it's time to go start my own restaurant. But there are probably people that you've had connections with in the industry who, if you tell them, this is what I'm going to do, they want to support you. And that's actually something that I learned from that mentor that I had early on, was tell people what your goals are and they will help you achieve them.
Right.
And I always sort of thought that was a little bit hokey he told me that when I was very young. But then when I went to start my own business, I really found that was true. I said, I'm going to do something different. Here's what I'm going to do the same as I was doing before. And here's what I'm going to do differently. And I'd like your help and support. And people say, absolutely, I want to support you. What can I do?
Well, it goes to show that, you really were providing value before too. It's one of those things where, if you open a restaurant, you can ask your friends to come and people that and you can probably get them to come once, but like the business is not running off of one transaction, right? Like you need them to come back, you need them to like really buy in. And so when you got people that are like, hey, we want to support you, we support everything you're doing, we're totally behind you, and then 6 months later they're still behind you, it means you're doing something right. And
Yeah.
so I think that is an interesting way, is that, and a lot of people forget to leverage those relationships they have.
Yeah.
It's like, we may feel like we're asking for a handout, but no, most of these people want to do something for us. There's a reason why we're connected and why we stay connected.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah,
another one of the people that, another customer, she was sort of a friend. I kind of connected with her, told her what I was up to. And she sent me an email at one point and said, hey, my boyfriend, you guys have a lot in common. You should talk with him. He owns his own company, and he's a kind of a minority partner with me now.
Okay.
And that was just, again, from reaching out to people, telling them what I was up to. She was a friend, and also a kind of a loyal customer that I had a longstanding relationship with. And she put me in touch with somebody who really helped me get off the ground, and is still a great sounding board and has a similar business mindset that I do. So I was a little bit reluctant to do things early on because I just felt like I was navigating new waters. So, but
sure.
Now I not only had this experience running the business within the business, but I also had, good customers and people who were supporting me, and that I knew that I could hit the ground running a little bit. And then I also had somebody who I found to have a similar business mindset, who wanted to be a little bit of a partner and help me get off the ground. And so he and his partner at the time, who was a part on, they owned a company together. They've since that other guy's dropped out, but
yeah,
they were kind of serial entrepreneur types, and they said, okay, we're going to get a marketing person and get the website stuff, and here's who you're going to go to for your graphic design, and here's who we're going to talk to for the logo, and here's who will do all your accounting and kind of business management, tax compliance, garbage.
Right. The stuff that we don't want to do. Right.
Yeah. And here's somebody you can talk to at a bank, and we'll get all the articles of incorporation together and get that going. And I just found
it's interesting when you start finding people that, I don't mean to interrupt you, but it's interesting when you really start moving towards the things that you want to do, the things you're passionate about, things you care about, how you start attracting kind of like-minded individuals, right? And people, again, who are looking to help you.
Yeah.
Like I found that in so many cases, that it's like when you're miserable and you're doing something you don't like, it's like you attract other miserable people, but when you're enthusiastic and you're passionate and you're looking for help, and all those people tend to just start appearing, and they want to help you. They want to see you succeed. It's very interesting how that works.
Yeah, and I think that was honestly one of the things that was most intimidating to me about starting a business. Was I was just thinking, I don't know anything about a lot of this little stuff. I don't even know who I would talk to. But it's funny that, just as with your company, what the services that you provide and partnering with small businesses, if you feel like you don't have an interest in doing something, or don't have a skill set in doing something that's really essential to your business, if you reach out to people who are experts in that, they will help you.
Totally.
You just need to find them, and then you need to pay them, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the
most
interesting part about
maybe not a bank person, I don't have to pay them, but all these other people that I work with, I have to pay them, but they take care of something that I don't want to learn, or that I don't have skills in, like the accounting side of stuff.
Right. I mean, everything, you can almost boil down like everything to a service now. And since this whole movement in the last like 10 years, where everyone wants to be a business owner, no one wants to work for a boss, like you can find freelancers that'll do anything, bookkeepers, CPAs, designers, what you name it, there's someone out there and they're looking for work. And so why bog yourself down with all this stuff that no one wants to do, when you can hire someone typically for, a relatively low rate? Most of these things aren't overly expensive. And you can focus on what you're doing, whether it's finding new clients or, whatever it may be. Like there's ways to do that. And I did want to touch on the delegation side a little bit, but you kind of covered it. I think if we were to round this whole thing out, because I had similar fears, right? When we started the business, it's like, I don't understand LLC versus S Corp. What am I going to do? It's like, well, no problem. There's other people who you can ask for that.
Right.
And I think you kind of mentioned it. It's like, I think there's definitely some competence that you have to have if you want to start a business, especially later in life, like you did. And when I say later in life, you're not that much older than me, so I don't want to make you seem too old. But I think there's something about having some confidence in yourself, understanding that you can do it, and if you can't do it, you can find someone who can.
Right.
So I mean, if we were to round this whole thing out for someone who may be like, mid 30s, later 30s, like, what would you tell them if they were miserable at their job and they thought they had, what it took to take something and start something new?
Well, I think there's a couple key components to starting any business, which is, who do you know who your customers are going to be? Do you know who you're going to sell to?
Right. Sales 101 stuff.
Yeah, and just kind of like a kind of simple SWOT type analysis of what the competitive landscape is and what the the opportunities, and is it a sustainable business that you're talking, and profitable business that you're talking about doing.
Right.
And assuming that's the case, I think evaluating what the fears are. I mean, for me, the fears about starting a business were, is it just going to be a lateral move? Am I going to just make the same or less money than I would otherwise? Is it really going to be any better? Am I just going to have more challenges? And I mean, I can answer those questions for me. Those are, I really thought that it would be a lateral move, and that it wouldn't, but I've found that my income is the same. And it has the potential to be much better. I didn't really have a lot more upward mobility than where I was at the previous company.
Right. You'd reach that ceiling, yeah.
Yeah, my quality of life is far, far better. I was always just working too much and stressful. And I find that even though my neck is on the line here, that I'm actually far less stressed about business than I was before. I constantly had this outside pressure, and now the pressure is my own to do well for my own sake, but not other people kind of beating on me. That something
totally
isn't good, that what I'm doing isn't good enough or something like that.
Right.
And that's a key thing. I think that people think, oh, if I own my own business, then I have to take on everything. That's going to be so much harder because I can't just rely on somebody else for a paycheck. And to a certain extent, that is true.
Sure.
But it certainly frees you up to do the things that you want to do the way that you want to do them. And I could go on and on about that, and that we don't really need to get into that here, but that's been very satisfying for me. That not that I always just have to get my own way, but that there are certain ways that I like dealing with people that, you're a little bit confined if you're working for somebody else. There's other considerations to the business that you're working for. Whereas when it's your own business, you can weigh those things for yourself, as opposed to every, the people that you're working with or for.
Right. It has its pros and cons, right? It's like, hey,
absolutely,
I can do this the way I want to do it. And then when it doesn't work, you're like, oh shit, I got to take it all on the chin right now. But that's when you learn all this stuff. And I totally agree with you, Rich. Like there was definitely things that we did before at a previous employer where it was like, I feel like we can do this a different way. We can do this better. Nothing monumental, but like just little shifts here and there. And once I was able to move over to where I am now and kind of understand that I can build a process around the way that my brain operates, oh my God, like sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And I think having that understanding that like there's not only one way to do something, whether who taught it to you, whether it's your mentor, whether it's from, your previous employer, whoever, there's always your way to do it. And as long as it gets done the right way, that's all that matters. And that level of freedom when you become that business owner or you're a freelancer, whatever it may be, it's really empowering.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting thing.
Going back to that first year, I mean, I remember there were some great moments and there were some ones that just scared the crap out of me. I mean, there was, some deals that came through that I thought, wow, this is really going to be my springboard to capitalizing this business and getting it off the ground. And that's actually an important thing to talk about, which is
yeah,
you are going to have to take it on the chin a little bit. I didn't have any income for basically 6 months because I had to just build up cash reserves in the business. And I still, at the end of the year, always, have some retained earnings that I roll into the next year because it's a seasonal business. But I didn't really lose that money. It's just that it's money that I can't touch,
right?
Because it's capital within the business. But that was a little bit unnerving. And I remember one time being out at a project, and this is unique to construction, but I'm sure it's the case with any business in that first year. Which is, I remember being out at a project and just I had the subcontractor that, wasn't showing up, and it was one of my best customers, and I had to deal with some other crap, and my phone was ringing like crazy. And I remember just thinking to myself, what did I do? What did I do? I was working for somebody else and everything was just kind of clicking along. And now I've got, whenever anything happens, I've got to get out there and get my hands dirty and deal with it. And
oh yeah, it's
what did I do?
Right. Well, I think it's funny because especially in construction, I mean, those first few years when you were kind of training me up, excuse me. I mean, I'd seen a lot of stuff, I had gone out there and I used to send me out to jobs and see stuff. And then when I started bidding on projects, like you'd get this big opportunity and you're excited about it. And, you're bidding it, you're trying to make good money. And then you get that email with like approved contract. And there's this initial wave of excitement, right? It's like, hi, this is amazing, right? Hey, my quota, I'm 80% there, whatever it is. And then it's like a month before the job happens. You're like, man, we got to do this thing now. It's not about just this thing on paper that looks like you're going to make X amount of dollars and whatever. It's like, no, you actually have to perform it. And I have the same thing where I am now. It's like, hey, this is a complicated site that we're building, or this is a company that this means a lot to, and they're paying a lot of money for the services we're providing. And, I still have to perform it. I got to make it successful. And there's always those worries, but I think those are the worries that make us successful. If we weren't worried about it, there's probably a problem.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Well, Rich, man, this has been great. We could talk for hours just because we have that kind of relationship. But I really appreciate your insights. I want to have you back on to talk about some other stuff, but this was great. I really appreciate it.
Good.
Well, where can we find you, Rich? What's your website?
It's redlinepavement.com. Again, the company's called Redline Pavement Solutions. So as I tell people, no freeways and no driveways, but I do shopping centers and homeowners associations, commercial properties, and so on.
I love it. We'll put some links when we send these things out, and we'll send people your way. Well, it was great having you, Rich. Thanks again.
Great. Thanks, Jared.
All right. Yeah.